Hi, everybody. Welcome to Maxsold's Ask an Expert webinar series in honor of Move Managers this month. We are just going to wait a second while our Facebook live streaming audience joins us. So we'll just give it a few moments and then we will begin. All right. Looks like Facebook Live is now streaming. So welcome everyone. Again, as I said, welcome to Maxsold's Ask an Expert webinar series, hosted this month in honor of Move Managers. And today we have Javadi Crawford from Project Move, who's going to be sharing her expertise and tips around moving your stuff and handling your stuff with purpose. Just real quick, I want to remind everybody that there will be a chance at the end for questions and answers. Please feel free to type them into the Q&A box or the chat. And also, we will be monitoring the Facebook Live feed so we can get your questions answered as well. This is recorded, and recordings will be available upon request afterwards. So I will now turn this over to Javadi. Thank you so much.
Oh, it is my pleasure. I am so excited to be here with everyone today. So please definitely put any questions in the chat. I can't wait to answer your questions and to really just go through what it's like to be a move manager and using Maxsold. So thank you for joining us today. So I hope everybody can see the screen. So if you can see the screens, just give me a little thumb up in the chat, just to let me know that you're there, because one of the things about being on one of these webinars is that I can't see you, but you can see me. And so sometimes you think, am I just talking to myself? And Heather assures me that I'm not. So I just wanted to let you know a little bit about me and a little bit about Project Move. So it's just a way to get started. Project Move was started with an idea that I had some friends that were merging households and they were like, can you help? That's how a lot of businesses get started. And that was in 2014. And in 2019, I found Maxsold. So if you will notice that I have been doing this business for about 5 years before I even knew Maxsold even existed. So if you've been in business for a while and you're like, I've never used Maxsold, I understand completely. Here, I put my website on here. You also see my calendar link. So if you just want to reach out to me and ask me some questions on something that you saw, there's my calendar link. There's my Facebook page where you can see where I am. I will call myself a newbie on social media. I try to share a lot, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. And the great thing is that I was just recently featured in a Consumer Reports article about how to sell stuff you no longer need. How fitting is that? So it was so exciting to be asked like what to do, because we all know that even though it might not be for us, but it could be for someone else. And if you want to check out any past or present auctions that I have with Maxsold, which is one of the features that they offer to their partners, is a page, and you'll see the QR code there as well as the website page. And that I give to my customers so that they can see how past auctions have done and to see that I'm well versed in working with Maxsold, because I've done quite a few auctions. So that's just a little bit about me. You'll hear more about me as we talk through the slides and as we just build upon what to do with your stuff. So let's get started. So I just wanted to go through a little table of contents, because you got to remember, we're organizers by trade. So with organizers, there's always a order for how we're going to do it. We're going to go through do you have too much stuff? Now that's $1 million question. You can ask yourself that, you can ask your customers that, and you can probably come back and ask yourself that again. And what to do with your stuff, and is a Maxsold auction right for you, or right for me, or right for your client? So that's what we're going to discuss. If we miss something in between there, I like to keep it simple so that we don't have any big, huge philosophical issues to discuss, but that's what we're going to go through. Okay, so let's get started. So Project Move, like I said, was started because we were helping people move. And so I start with my wonderful moving methodology, which means that you have to understand the motivation of a move. You have to understand the organization that's required in a move. You have to align with your client's visions and values, as well as your own personal visions and values. You have to determine who needs to be involved. That's the question of, are we holding an auction? What should I do with my stuff? And the next, it's talking about you're ready for your next phase and how are we going to help you get there? And then we have growth, because everything requires growth and personal enrichment. So one of the things that when people talk about the top stresses are moving, that motivation, like you're going to do something different, the one thing that's always lurking in the background is what to do with my stuff. And so as we are discussing that big question, it's stressful. It's like, what should I do? So I have a poll, because now that you know a little bit about me, I'm going to talk about core values, but we have a poll that we want you to take. And that poll is just so that we can know who you are. And so I've introduced myself. I'm a move manager. That's how I classify myself. But I'm just curious who's on the call with us. And just so that make sure that I can touch the things that you might be interested in this presentation. So if I were to fill this out, I am going to select Move Manager. And believe it or not, they don't let me vote. So, so are people voting? Yes.
Yes, we currently have about 45. So let's give it another 20 seconds there. And but it's mainly two categories here.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm going to be curious who those others are, but we'll come back to that. Okay, so most of us are move managers or professional organizers, and that's a fun thing for me to say, because believe it or not, I interchange myself with those two topics. And the reason is that most of the people that I interact with have no idea how to define either one of those things. And so I am interested to know how people delineate between that, but that's a whole nother different conversation. So I want to talk about the vision of stuff. Remember, like as a move manager or professional organizer, your job is not to come into people's house and be like, just get rid of your stuff. Your job is to really align yourself with the core values of their stuff and of the space that they want to create. So is it sustainability? Is they want to live in a world where everything has a purpose? Is it efficiency and speed, where they want to make sure that they understand where things are, so that they can be more agile when they're getting dressed or when they're about to move? It's about trust, making sure that you feel like you're part of the team that's supporting them as they grow. Is it about value? Like, I need to make a ton of money if I'm going to get rid of this stuff, or my move is already expensive. How can I create some value for that? And so with the customer, when you're dealing with your stuff, and you can ask yourself that question, do I have too much stuff? I use these core values to evaluate whether or not I have too much stuff, or the client has too much stuff. And so, because the real answer is, if you have a place for everything and you feel comfortable in your environment and you can accomplish the goals that you have, you may not have too much stuff. It may be too much stuff for me, but it might not be too much stuff for them. And so that's where you have to make sure that the core values that you are introducing to your customers. So that's like the vision of stuff. Like, stuff has to align with your personal core values, as well as any type of the core values of your company and the companies that you partner with. Okay. All right. So let's see what happened. Why didn't it go to? Okay, there we are. So now that we've had that big, huge question, do we have too much stuff? Let's talk about the 5 categories of what to do with the stuff that you have. I love these pictures because it allows me to talk about it, as well as to have a great visual. And if I were to ask you what each of the pictures meant, I'm sure you would come. Some of them are easy, like the selling your stuff, donating your stuff, putting it in the trash. Those are easy. The one that is always the biggest puzzle that people have is just like they have no idea what to do with their stuff when they're about to move. For the stuff that they don't know, that they feel like they don't want to take with them, but they're like, well, what should I do with it? Should I donate it? Should I sell it? Should I just throw it in the trash? Or better yet, should I just hide it so I can just get another storage bin and I put it in that storage bin, and then it just goes away. So we have another poll, and that poll is really talking about, what do you do with your stuff? And so let's just put the poll on. So what are you doing? I want to know, of these 5 categories, which one do you find yourself recommending people to do, or just like that's just what you do at home? Now, I will tell you a secret that sometimes I think organizing it is also hiding it. So that's one of the things that, because I specialize, my business is really about people who are moving. So my recommendation is I don't do that many straight organizing jobs. And so that's a different mindset. So this is to give you a bit of insight on my business model. So that hide it can mean put it in a storage tote and put it in a storage unit, or put it in the basement, or put it in the garage. The sell it is, there are, I would say, 100 ways to sell things. You can donate things as well. The nothing is what most of my clients have been doing for years, and that's why they're in a predicament where they've been in a house for 30 or 40 years and they have extra stuff to deal with. And a lot of people will put it in a dumpster. Okay, so 94% of people are actually just donating stuff. Now that's actually huge, because I didn't think the number was that large, because a lot of the statistics that I'm seeing for a lot of places, that donation sites are actually overrun with things. And so this is like going to be an interesting conversation. So this conversation is really about selling it and utilizing Maxsold. So that surprised me that number was so high. All right. So how you sell matters. So I want to just walk you through how I got from tag sales, which you can see the tag sale on, well, it's on my left, so hopefully it's on your left as well. On the left side, where you have everything out on the table, and I did full house sales. So when I first started in 2014, I remember going into the person's house and then putting everything, like first having them to decide what they wanted to take with them to get all of those things out of the house. And then it was my responsibility to look around and say, okay, what are we going to do with the rest of the stuff? So I would have a full house of, depending on if the person, because I do estate clearing for when a person may have passed and they have to clear the house for sale, to moving where they're taking half of their things because they're downsizing or relocating. So typically when I get to a house, they've already removed all the things that they want from the home. And now they're asking me to figure out how to liquidate those things. And so it's my responsibility to take those 5 categories that I identified on the previous screen to determine what the path is for the items in the household. And donation is a wonderful option, because I will tell you from my experience, I donate mostly clothes and food items, consumables, and those types of things I do not sell. And I identify local charities for the location of the home to actually donate those things. But that still leaves you about 50 to 60% of the things that are still left in the house. For example, they may be sofas, there may be beds, there could be tools, there could be anything from a garage to a basement to an attic to a storage unit. And so from there, I was charged to liquidate the rest of their home. And I was doing tag sales. That was the first 4 years of my business. And the challenge is that tag sales are very time consuming and they require a ton of work where you have to price every single item. And that requires a bit of research, as well as you need to have a pretty large staff in order to support the people in the home that are actually purchasing. So I was not an estate sale company. I was more of just holding a tag sale or yard sale for the client. And what I found was that I was only selling about 35 to 50% of the things that were in the house. And so I still had 50% of the things that were left. And I remember that one of the core values for Project Move is that we're a sustainable organization. We provide value, we have efficiency, we have speed. Well, tag sales don't really fulfill those business objectives because they're time consuming and they're laborious and they take a long time. And so we were looking for a solution that could take us from holding tag sales to something else. We saw an advertisement for Maxsold, and I had already done a tag sale for one particular client where we still had 50% of the items that were still remaining in the house. So we decided as a business that we would try Maxsold. And remember, we still had about 50% of the things left in the house, but we wanted to try Maxsold. And so we did it. And Project Move only does partner managed auctions. So we handle everything from Maxsold. So we do not have Maxsold to come in and tag or do any of the work for the auction. We do all of that with our staff through Project Move. So with that 50% that we had left from our first auction, we were able to sell another probably about 85% of those items in the Maxsold auction. And what made it interesting for that comparison, so as we were evaluating on whether or not we were going to use Maxsold, is that the auction, which sold the remaining 50%, which we know that the people at the yard sale, what I like to call cherry picked, all the great things from the auction, we were able to, I mean, it was within a couple $100 difference for the totals for the auction as well as for the tag sale. So that got us closer to about 85% sell, which is awesome because that meant that we did not have to figure out what to do with the remaining 15%. So that was like how you sell matters and how you donate matters. And so it's one of those things where this is how the conversation began with Maxsold. And so I don't know if we have any questions that have come in as I'm just talking about like how we started. So if not, I will continue. Okay. So I want to tell you, this is where we do the what, who, how, why, where, and when. So we're a professional move management company that specializes in all phases of your move. As a reminder, moving is more than just your stuff from point A to point B. And I should have just left off the E of B, but oh well. The reason why I said that is because when we talk to customers, that's what we talk about. That we let them know that it's more than just getting your stuff in a box and getting you to your next location. It's the stuff that's not going in your boxes that you have to figure out. So the what is, like I said, we're a move management company that specializes in estate clearing, relocation, and downsizing. And so when you're defining what your business model is and who your potential partners will be, that's where you have to think about like what it is that you're trying to offer for your clients. What we are trying to offer is really a solution so that if you're moving, we can help you to define what that move can look like, as well as what to do with the stuff that you might not want to be moving with you. The who, Like I said, we've been in business since 2014. So that means that next year we'll be celebrating 10 years, which is kind of like, wow, we made it through COVID. So I know that I cheer myself when, when I figure that out, because that was a difficult year for us. That was actually we had just we went full time. I went full time in the business in 2019. And so that was really the big deal. So, COVID was interesting. To go full time and then have COVID was probably one of the scariest times. So how we get clients is that we actually work with realtors, and we work with estate clearing companies, resellers, people who just deal with stuff. So if you're like trying to decide on how to grow your business and what to do with your business and how to get more clients, the who you network with and who you partner with definitely makes a difference. We choose Maxsold as a partner to sell stuff is because, if you remember from the previous slide, we were doing maybe from 50 to 75. Hopefully we were hitting 75% sale with tag sales, but it wasn't often. With Maxsold, we hit anywhere between 80 and 100% sales. And yes, we have had an auction that had 100% sell. And I will tell you that was completely an exciting time for the team. And that was well, anyway, that was a very exciting day. The why, you have to be able to answer that specific question for, your client as to why your move management company, like what makes you different than the other companies. And it's really about understanding, like, that big question is like, what should I do with my stuff? Like, that's your question. And so I like to use the word moving, if you remember, because it's in the name of the business. But it's really about moving is more than just A to B. It's like that big question of what to do with your stuff. Where do I put it? Where should I sell it? How should I sell it? Should I donate it? When should that happen? All of those big questions. So I just want to walk you through so I am going to role play with myself. I do talk to myself from time to time, but this time I'm going to do it on the camera, so it'll be even more fun. So when I walk into a client's house that is about to move, this may be a referral from a realtor who has a client that is in the midst of about to move, but they know that they don't plan on taking everything with them. And so I walk in and I immediately know that I have the tools in my tool belt to be able to support them. So I know all the contractors that potentially could be utilized in a move. I know all the business partners and relationships that I need. So, but the biggest question they have is like, what would you do with this stuff? And I will tell you that donation is a viable option, but a lot of people want to make money. They believe that, and I will tell you that one of the more difficult things to donate is a piano. And so, and if you look at many of the Maxsold auctions, they have been able to sell those pianos. And that's huge for a client, because what do you do with a piano? Pianos are expensive to move, and they're expensive, and they're very difficult to donate. So when you're looking at that who, what, when, how, where, you want to make sure that you have a full toolbox for your clients. And that's where you want to have a good partnership. So I just want to talk now. So like I said, we've only done partner managed auctions. Like I said, we do full service for clients. So we do not ask Maxsold to send staff to photograph, to handle pickups, to do any of those items. And I know that if you're curious about the pricing and fee structure, I would encourage you to reach out directly to Maxsold, because I don't necessarily get that right all the time. And so this way you can have the whole picture. And the reason we do partner managed is that's really how we started. When I did the first auction, I didn't know what the difference between seller, partner managed and Maxsold managed. So I basically picked one, and this is the path that we chose. So I'm just going to roll you back to 2019, and we're going to talk about the auction that I did in a trailer. And so what happens is that many times people have loved ones that may pass, or that are downsizing into an assisted living facility or a senior facility. And those really are your ideal customers. Those are people that need assistance to make decisions about what to keep, and as well as decisions on what to do with the stuff that they didn't keep. So it's really about identifying who your ideal customer is, and to determine if like Maxsold is a viable option for your ideal customers. If you are if you just do closet organization, that might not make Maxsold might not be the ideal thing for you. But if you do full houses, then this may be a viable option. And so I got this client, and they are, if you go to my auction link, you'll see that they were in, because the great thing about Maxsold is all of the auctions information is available to you for you to see. And it's not, which makes it great, because when you have tag sales, people will, how much did this sell for? And how much did this sell for? And with a tag sale, because it's so much happening in one day, it's very difficult to be able to provide those records to people. But with a Maxsold auction, you're able to see those things very well. So that was who my ideal customer. So this was a trailer. And so I go in with the team, and we just walk through the house. It's a trailer. We're like, well, how hard can it be, right? And so we go in, and I'm going to tell you, when you do your first auction, or when you do your 5th or 30th, or however many I've done, I'm going to tell you, every day you're surprised by how much stuff can be in one little room. Like, I was in an attic yesterday, and I was like, oh, this shouldn't take that long. And it seems like every crevice in that attic had something that I wasn't expecting to be in there. So that's what happens with houses. So what I did was, Maxsold provides labels that have your branding information on and everything. So I had all the labels. I just put them all on the table. I just dropped them on the table. So imagine like you get a thing of cards and you just drop them on the table. So you don't put them in any number order. Because in my mind, I thought, well, what difference could it make? And I was just picking up numbers randomly. I'm like, okay, this will be number 8. This will be 72. This one will be 58. This one will be 52. Well, when you're numbering them, it didn't seem to make that much of a difference, because it didn't matter. But what it did matter was on pickup day, when number 5 was next to number 62, and then I couldn't remember where 62 was, because it didn't make sense that it was next to number 5. So this is where the tools required in order to be successful with an auction require, and the one thing that I didn't know when I started was that things like this were available. Like, I did not know that there were webinars, and there were other move managers who have done it before, who have the skills and the tools and have figured out how to make sure everything works. And when I was doing it initially, they only had the desktop version of the auction catalog, which meant that I was using a camera. And then I had to upload the pictures that were, by the way, in all these random orders, and upload the pictures. And that in of itself was a little bit crazy. So they support us as partners to actually be able to do our job better. And they are constantly asking for feedback to ensure that we can get better. So the tools required are available from Maxsold, and as well as other move managers like myself offer like one-on-one sessions, which that's why I have my calendar link up there that you can actually schedule to ask questions if you are thinking about doing a Maxsold auction, or you have questions and you get a little bit overwhelmed. Okay, so the tools required. So I'm going to give you the things that I like to have when I am going into a customer to begin the process. And the things that I use, which I didn't put on this slide because I like to just talk from slides. So I don't like have pictures of everything, but it just depends on what you like. The things that I like to do with the auction is, like you need your standard tools that you need when you go in. You're going to need your labels, you're going to need your Sharpies, you're going to need your Post-it notes, you're going to need, I use blue painter's tape on furniture to mark things. You're going to need some clear tape. And I use black trash bags for trash, and I use clear trash bags for donations as well as for grouping auctions. So the tools you require are all available and they're simple, but definitely know that one of the tools that I value so much is the customer support that we have. Auction prep and execution usually lasts for between about 30 to 45 days. I can get an auction done. And if you look at their Maxsold website, they can get the auction live and up, and they say you can be in 14 days. I will tell you to be a little bit more realistic with your time, because what they're saying is the photos and the auction going live can be done in 45 days. But if you have to go in and prep the house and sort through things and like make those things happen, then that's going to take a little bit more time than the 14 days. But it can be done. Okay. So is the chat going, like there are like 23 chats in there? Are they asking me questions, or are they saying you're doing a great job? Hopefully that's what they're saying.
There are a few questions. Do you want to wait until the end?
No, we can ask a few questions. I like interaction. That tells me that people actually are listening to me, and it makes me feel good. So thank you.
Awesome. So the most recent question, it looks like, is one of my clients did an auction through Maxsold, and after paying their high fees, they only made $50. The goal is not to make money, but get rid of stuff. What do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
So so Maxsold fees are Maxsold fees. And so any auction company that they would have used would have also had fees. And so I do not tell clients that my goal as a move manager is not to make them money, because I am not an estate sale company. I tell clients that Maxsold is a tool to help them to empty their homes, because their home is their asset, not their stuff. So, I mean, I'm sorry they only made $50 after, like everything is said and done, but that can be a couple of things that could have happened for that auction. Sometimes it's grouping, sometimes it's photographs, and sometimes the quality of things that they were selling may not have been desirable for the market that they're in. Because I've had people who had homes that look like they should have been in Florida, but I live in Pennsylvania. So those things are not going to sell as well here in Pennsylvania. But if they look at a Florida auction, they're like, oh, this thing sold for thousands of dollars. And I said, but you have to consider the location, because Maxsold does, somebody from Florida is not going to drive to Pennsylvania to get your table. I mean, it could happen, but it's just highly unlikely. Any other questions?
So the next question, let's see. Eleanor wrote, I have a dilemma of recommending Maxsold to my clients, as is it can be a conflict of interest if I create work, therefore income for my company. I see professional organizers quite busy with hundreds of hours of work on Maxsold clients, but how much of the auction proceeds are going to the client and how much is going to the organizer to pay for their services? How do you handle this?
So the one thing that I would like to explain is that my fees are separate from Maxsold proceeds. The proceeds can offset my fees, but I don't do the auction to pay my fees. So when I go into a client, I let them know that this is the service that I provide, and this is the tool that I use to provide that service. And so when I price my services, that's based on the service that I provide. So for example, I've had clients that have told me that they wanted to donate everything in their house. My fees are the same if I'm donating everything in the house or if I'm holding a Maxsold auction for the client. And so you have to be able to separate that. Maxsold, if you had to get a dumpster for the client to throw away everything, there would be a cost associated with that. And you would not have assumed that you would take that cost into your fees. And so that's the same type of logic that you need to use for a Maxsold auction. Because I will tell you that the majority of my auctions do not cover my fees.
Perfect. Yeah, and just so everybody knows, anybody at Maxsold, myself, if you have an account manager you work with, we are always happy to hop on a call and try and navigate kind of how to help your client do better with a sale, and also address any expectations they have, because I'm sure, Javadi, as you probably see with your clients, expectations can be different depending on who you're working with, and knowing that and addressing that is something that Maxsold wants to definitely partner with you guys on.
Yeah, and one of the things that I got very early in my auctions is that they actually did an audit after the auction happened, and we actually went through the lots, and they actually explained to me some of the things that I could have done better in order to showcase the items better. So for example, if you don't, you will learn a lot about a lot of things by doing auctions. And one of the things that you have to understand is that when you're dealing with China, you have to make sure that you know something about the brands that you're describing. You can't just take pictures of plates and hope for the best and hope that people will see it. Furniture, you have to understand what measurements to take. You have to know what angles to take the photos of. There's a lot of nuances to this. And what I tell people is to go on Wayfair and look how they photograph their furniture. And you can see the angles of it. Now, I know Maxsold has they have a how-to, but you got to remember that Wayfair's job is just to sell furniture. And so if you want to know how to photograph a chair, go to Wayfair to see it. If you want to know how to photograph plates, go to Wedgwood and look at how they photograph their plates. The reason I say this is because you have to understand that people only can see the images online. And so therefore you have to, just like, like influencers get better at the angles and taking pictures and knowing how to take pictures and knowing what to say and how to describe things, you will get better with that. And that will actually increase your client's sales. So for example, if you can say, this is a Broyhill sofa that, that has whatever, like descriptions with it, it's better than saying brown sofa. And because people are searching for Broyhill sofas, they're not searching for a brown sofa. And so anything that you can add to a description to make it pop more off the screen. And, like they explained to me that sometimes you have to take extra lighting for homes because a lot of houses don't have overhead lighting and they only have lamps and different things in the room. So pictures look darker than they actually are supposed to be. Those are things that you learn the more you do it. But I think the great thing is to have discussions so that you are learning the tricks in the trade to actually have more successful auctions and to feel more comfortable talking to your clients about it.
Perfect. So Darla had a question. She said, I guess she's looking maybe at your partner page or your shop page, and she wanted to know what the tags mean. Tag 42, tag 286, etc. Are the number of items included in the auction?
Yes. So each auction, so you tag the particular lots that you identify. And so each tag is a particular grouping of things that you've identified that the person gets if they win this grouping. So auctions have different numbers depending on how many lots are at a particular house. So if you look at my current auction, it is a very small auction, and I don't typically do small auctions. And so this is something that they wanted a quick turnaround, and so we're going to just see how it works out. But anything, my goal, again, sustainability is so important. I want these things not in a landfill. And so I just want to also know the answer. Can we have smaller auctions and kind of see how that works out for my region and for me doing those? And they know the possibility is there that this auction is not going to cover my fees. They knew that. We've had this discussion before it started. And that's because the goal is that they would have. So you have to remember, if you don't have an auction, how much does it cost to actually get rid of this stuff that's left in the house? Like, people don't understand that there's a cost associated with it. And even though the majority of you all said that you donate things, we all know that everything is not donatable, or there's not a viable place to get it donated to. So for example, I have a client right now that has that, like, they owned a business, and so they moved a lot of their business supplies to the basement. Well, it was from a business. It wasn't from their household. And so some of these are business parts. And so finding a viable source for donation is sometimes you do have to do a donation, because those were not Maxsold type of items. Like there's not many people who would like to purchase an old bus regulator. So so you really have to be versed in understanding all of those 5 things so that you can figure out what's best suited for your client. And I do think it's very important that you talk to your Maxsold representative to understand if this is a viable auction, because there have been times when I started with a client and then I tell them that this stuff is not donatable. It might be because they had a water problem in the basement that they may not have been aware of until we uncovered it by unburying some things in the basement. Those things are not really viable for an auction, because you would not want those. So those may have to go into the trash. And so it's really about having that conversation and making sure that you separate your fees from the Maxsold auction. Maxsold is a business tool, a business partner. It is not a way to pay for you. Does that make sense? Hopefully so. Any more questions?
We have a question about furniture.
Yay.
Do larger items like furniture sell better than small items in lots? When I used to do estate sales years ago, most of the money was made in the small collectible things. That's from Robin.
Well, Robin, I would say that trend has not changed. What happens with a lot of people will buy the small collectibles. I've seen like specific brands in furniture do very well, but it's not the norm. So large furniture does not sell as well, but it does not sell as well anywhere. So like getting it sold in a Maxsold auction sometimes is a better tool, because I have worked with clients, like as we're preparing the auction, I'll tell them, I'll list your stuff somewhere else to see if it sells, because they have a number in their head that they want to make from that particular item. So like, for example, the auction that I just had in Lebanon, they had a number that they wanted to sell their piano for. And so I said, well, let's see if we can do it, right? Let's put it out there and see if it happens. Well, the piano did not sell. And so then we put it into the auction and we did get a sell for it. It was not the price that they had in their dreams, which I thought was a dream anyway. However, what it did was allow them to, like, as you're preparing it, there may be specific things that people have they're fixated on a particular price. I tell clients not to put those in the auction, and that we will have to come up with a different plan to do that, because an auction is an auction. You do not know what the outcome will be. It's an auction.
So Deborah is asking, she said she must charge for her time prepping the auction, correct?
Yes.
So I guess there's
Yes.
a clarification there. Yeah.
Yes.
And then an anonymous attendee asked, what are your fees and where are you located?
Well, my fees are based on the actual space and what I actually have to do. And so I will tell you that my fees are higher than Maxsold's base fees that they charge. Because Maxsold, like, I remind you what Maxsold is coming in to do. They're coming in to do the photography. they're coming to manage the pickup. Your job as a move manager or an organizer is to get the person moved to their next location. Maxsold is just one of the services that you're going to be offering. So I am located in Pennsylvania, and I service Pennsylvania and New Jersey. And on occasion, when one of my friends is in another location, I might go to help them.
So Heidi wants to know how many people are in your crew, and how do you, I guess, break down how you she says, how do you charge the client for your prep time, which kind of overlaps with the other question, but how many people are working with you?
So, so it depends. So like on pickup day, it's usually, so I'll just work backwards so that you can kind of see. So on pickup day, it's usually 3 people plus me on a pickup day. Usually that's for an auction that has over 200 lots. And that way I can float as more of a supervisor and they manage the actual pickup. So you have 4 people there on pickup day. On auction prep day, it depends on what the phases are. So now we'll go from the other way. So for the first part of actually working with the client to identify what they're taking and what they're not taking, that's a one-on-one consult with an organizer so that we can document everything that they're taking so that we have that particular plan in place. Once they've identified everything that they're going to be taking, it's usually 2 by 2 in the house, because that way, the first thing we're doing is we're grouping lots and trying to figure out where things are, because believe it or not, people don't live in Maxsold lot fashion. For example, you may have a customer that has a china set and half of it will be in the basement, because why? They have too many pieces. And so you need to know where all of those pieces are so that when you put the lot together, that all of the items are together. And so that's why we're going 2 by 2 through the house. So we're identifying what's trash, what's sellable, and then we're beginning the grouping process of actually doing the lots. And the reason I do that 2 by 2 is because I feel that one, it's a helpful process for to have 2 people there. And then also you don't want so many different people seeing everything in the house, because if they did have a china pattern in the basement and you had someone also working in the dining room, you would often have so much coordination. So that's the first part of just identifying what's there. And then once we get to the actual photography and labeling and getting everything uploaded on the auction, that's usually 3 people, someone to group in and to photograph. And you're kind of like moving along through the house, because you've already grouped everything so they can photograph and get that done. And then I have one person that does the edits online, because I found that one person can consistently edit across, they do it consistently all the time. And then the auction's live. So that's kind of like what it looks like. Depending on the size of the house, the photography usually can take 2 to 3 days once all the lots are done. And put together and sorted for trash, etc. The prep depends on what the house looks like to kind of get them ready. That's really where your wild card is, and that's why I say it probably could take you more than 14 days.
So Judy would like you to comment on what work remains after the Maxsold sale and pickups are done, based on the sales that you've done so far.
So based on what I've seen, the main work is the broom swept cleaning, where you're actually sweeping up the areas that furniture is moved from, because we all know once the sofa's moved, there's always something underneath of it. They're usually, depending on your sell-through rate, when sell-through rate means that did you sell 100% of the things that you listed, usually you're probably at between 90 and 95%. So there's about 5% left. And so you want to identify where those things are going to be going. You typically know that as the actual auction has closed. Usually my auctions close on Wednesday with pickup on Saturday. So I have 2 days to figure out what to do with those things that didn't sell. I let the clients know that because they did not sell in the auction, I will be offering those things for free for anyone who comes to pick up if they would like to take them away. And no client is complaining, because keep in mind, they could have bid $1 for it, right? And so the only difference is $1, really, because nobody bid anything. So I encourage them to take them away. And then also I may list them on like a Craigslist or a Facebook Marketplace for free for pickup during the auction time. because that time is that we're here at the house. For those things that don't leave, then I schedule a junk hauler service, usually for the Monday following the auction.
Perfect. Anna would like to know, how do you work from a storage space? We were talking about that earlier.
Yay!
How can clients pick up from a storage space?
Okay, so I have done, so I will tell you, I have done, I have 3 different versions of storage space that I've done. The first one was they had a storage unit, but they had a house. And so I actually contracted and had everything from the storage unit moved over to their house so that we had one pickup location. That is what I would always recommend, so that you don't have 2 pickup locations, because otherwise you need to have 2 auctions. So I moved everything to the house. That was fun because obviously it was a lot of stuff anyway. So that was one example. The second example was the storage unit. This person actually had 4 storage units. Yay! And so what I explained to him is that each storage unit would be its own separate auction. And so when you are doing a storage unit, you have one day to get this done. And I take a much larger team to do a storage unit because you have one day to get it done. You have to take everything out of that storage unit, figure out what's in there. And so you want to work with the storage unit facility to make sure that you have space. You can either have them to give you a second storage unit where you're cataloging and moving it to the second storage unit, or if it's an outside unit, you can use outside. I only do storage units during the, like I like to call them the cooler months of the year. You do not want to be in a storage unit in the middle of summer. Done that, and I'm going to tell you, it's like, you know what the turkey feels like, because it's that hot in the storage unit. But like I said, you get one day at it. So you have to come in, be able to take everything out, catalog it, put it back in, and be ready to have your auction go live after that one day. The reason being is that you can't leave stuff out. And if you take it out once, I like to only touch things once. So the process is, you have to take everything out of the storage unit. You have to sort it for what's sellable, what's donated, what's trash. And then you have to catalog it, and you have to put it back in the storage unit so that you can get it out when you have pickup, and then you get it done. Storage units can be fun, but I'm going to tell you, it's a long day, and you have to be prepared to start at the crack of dawn and finish at the crack of evening, because the reason is you can't leave it out, and you don't want to have to take it out a second time, because that's like double work, and I don't like double work.
How do you systematize the pickup day? She asked, how do clients pick up?
The clients, it's the same pickup day as the other part, is that you use your lot numbers by how you stage them into the storage unit. So for example, and then you want to get there a little bit early to try to kind of group people's pickup things. So if they happen to be picking up something that's all the way in the back and they get there, you want to make sure that's your in time pickup time. If they get there early, they just have to wait. But the key is that the same way I categorize the numbers for different rooms in the house, you want to do that for the storage unit, where you have different sections. And so that as you're loading the things back into the storage unit, you want to pay attention to the numbers and how you put it back in. And then it goes just like a pickup, like at the trailer that I had, because the storage unit and the trailer ain't that different. It's still one little door to get into that one little space.
All right. Caitlin asked, can you put a minimum bid on items?
No.
Yeah. And then Christina answered her here. Minimum bid is $1. Right. Okay, let's see. I think
Okay, do I have any more? Yeah.
How
Oh,
do
I
we
just want to put that on the screen. That's how to find me if you want to find me. See, that's how you can find me.
Perfect. All right. Anna asked, how do we find your auctions on Maxsold?
So there is a link that was on a previous slide. So maybe I'll go back to that now that I should have put that on the last slide too. But this link right here, Pages Maxsold, that each move manager has the opportunity to have that kind of link, and I actually have that QR code on my business card so that people can see past auctions and, you know, be able to see that, yeah, she knows what she's doing.
Okay. Marissa, can you put the link in the chat? We can access links on the screen. Okay.
Can you access links on the screen?
That's what she's asking.
I think, I mean,
Sure. This is recorded though, so we can
oh,
share this.
actually, I don't know. What did I just do? Oh, there it is. Okay, I clicked the link from my screen, but you don't have my slide. So this is where what it takes you to, which is about, and then you have your online auctions. And this is my current auction. Yay, see, look, it's in Clinton. Look at that little pretty table. Doesn't everybody want it? Say yes and go bid. This is a future one that we're working on. And this is the one that had the beautiful piano. See, look at that lovely piano. And you can see, and they had like tools and different toolboxes and different things. And this was the one in Makunji. So you can see the different auctions that we had.
Okay. Oh, and Anna's asking some more information about the storage unit. She's dealing with one on a 5th floor with an elevator. And yeah, she's saying we can't have people in, very difficult. It sounds like you might not be able to do an auction if you can't have people.
So can we talk offline? And then just kind of like talk about what the, like what's viable, because like the storage, I haven't had a storage unit because I'm in Pennsylvania, and the older storage units are all like exterior door storage units. So they were outside where people could drive up and kind of like pick stuff up. So let's plan to strategize about that.
Perfect. So yeah, Anna, definitely reach out to Javadi. Kimberly wants to see your QR code again.
Okay, well, this is, I will tell you that if you look at can you see this right here? This is actually the link for the QR code up here. This right here, pages, maxsold.com/shop/project move.
Okay. Stephanie
That's where the QR code is.
Can you talk more about the buyers, how you and or Maxsold find the right buyers to send to your auctions?
Okay, so one of the things that I have, because I've done quite a few auctions in the past, is that I have a lot of people that follow what it is I'm actually doing, if that makes sense. And so you can create that following by telling people on your personal social media things that this is what you're doing, so that people know that it exists. The other thing is that Maxsold has like their distribution list is probably like 1 million plus at this point. And so their network is pretty large. And so their marketing team is marketing for you, which is another benefit. So when people say, what is that percentage cost? Because that's what people say, well, why does it cost 35%, for Maxsold? And I say, well, they do all the marketing. They collect all the payables, all the receivables. They host the websites. They're doing all the technical work. And I said, they got to get paid too. And if I had to personally do this, well, frankly, then that would mean that I would just be in the auction business. And that's not the business that I want to be in. I need a service provider for this. So this is like the choice between you doing your own finances and you using QuickBooks. And you never say, I would never pay for QuickBooks, because why would I pay for that? Because they're providing you a service that you couldn't have done yourself.
And if it helps, I can just speak a little bit to how Maxsold does get in front of the audience. So we do have thousands of registered bidders in each region, and we do an email blast that goes out 90 miles from site of auction. We also are promoting on websites like Craigslist, like estatesales.org, like Facebook Marketplace, just to make sure we get everything out in front of the audience. And then, of course, we always encourage you to share the link with any local buy and sell groups that you are a member of, because that can't hurt. It's been a lot of questions. I'm not sure. I'm gonna make a double check to see if there are any more. Let's see.
So, and also we're going to keep the chat. So if there are some questions that weren't answered in the live presentation, then we'll get those answered for you.
I think we got to every single one.
Well, how can there be 51 things in the chat then?
A lot of comments, a lot of
Oh,
words of encouragement, and people sharing where they're from in the beginning,
oh, wonderful.
Colorado, and let's see, several people from Colorado here this evening, or I guess it's still afternoon for you guys. Um, and then comments, like Eleanor shared that she also will do a combination of donate, sell, recycle, and trash items. So when the poll was up, she just wanted to say that she always does a combo. And then a
Yes,
lot of people empathizing with how hard it is to sell items.
yes,
Um,
yes. So that's why one of the things that I hear from a lot of organizers is like, I don't want to sell my clients stuff. And that's because who wants to be doing one-off sales? Like I said, when I first started, I was doing tag sales and one-off sales. And I was like running around thinking, oh, I'll sell this sofa for you. And you know, like it just wasn't financially worth it for me and for the client.
right.
So like I said, if you have additional questions, I have on my calendar link, there's a Maxsold info session that you can schedule, and you can ask any questions. How to, I want to do it, but I don't know where to start. Any of those questions, we're here to help you and to get you started.
We
And
have one more
like you can.
question. Sorry, Christina Knowles. My question is that since the minimum bid is $1, how do you positively sell the idea to the client when local competitors promise more?
Well, I always tell you promises are like, well, I won't say what I think they're like, but pretend that you can fill that in. Local competitors can promise anything. If it's an auction, you cannot promise anything. And so, like I said, if there's something that they really, really need a specific price for, I tell them that Maxsold is not the place for it, and that they can find other means to sell it, and we can work through and discuss that.
Christina, what I can add to that is from my experience in the auction industry over decades, is that if you're in front of the audience of buyers and you're providing a sought after item that holds significant fair market value or decent fair market value, generally the item seeks its value, because if
Mhm.
you're in front of the buyers are going to bid, right? Think about going to an estate sale and you have two people show up and they want to haggle with you over a piece of costume jewelry that maybe you didn't know was really collectible, but they know, and they're going to try and figure out who can get it and who can get the better price. Well, you're in front of these people, right? If you put that item on the auction block, and even better, make it so they can't interact with you or one another, they can only interact digitally, they are going to compete for that item. And
Mhm.
that item is going to seek its value because it's a sought after item and it's in front of the market. So that's really what the whole reason for auctions are in general. The dollar start has proven that auctions can seek out its value if you're in front of the audience. The reason why it's become more popular in internet auctions is because instead of being in front of 250 people in a brick and mortar warehouse, we're now in front of thousands. So like in the New York City tri-state area alone, I think I'm pretty sure we have over 10,000 all-time registered bidders. So it's really being in front of the market. But as Javadi said, if you have something that your client is tremendously anxious about, then it's about expectations as well, and what their comfort level is moving forward, and are they really ready to release the item, and how are they comfortable doing that.
Mhm.
And we have 5 more questions, and I know we're now over in time. Oh no, most of these are saying how wonderful the presentation was. So thank you, and lots of kind words for how
Thank
useful
you.
this was, Javadi.
Thank you. Thank you. Like I said, definitely reach out to me. And then let's just keep the conversation going. I found that Maxsold has been a viable business partner, and hopefully I've been a good business partner for them to actually grow my particular business. And I enjoy telling people that this is a viable option if you're interested in it. Like, I love organizing, I just don't love doing closets. And so I needed to find my particular niche, and this is it.
All right. Lots of people asking how to reach out to you. So it looks like you'll probably have lots of new friends after this. Thank you
Fabulous.
so much. I know we're
Fabulous.
over in time. Really appreciate everybody attending. And next Wednesday is another webinar that Marty Stevens-Hebner from NASM will be presenting. And she will be talking about how to navigate challenging clients and conversations that you might have with them. Of course, all these are recorded. Please feel free to request the recording. And then finally, we do need to share the code words so
Oh
that
my
we
gosh,
can
I forgot the
issue.
code words. Oh, can you believe that? Okay, yes. So the code words, I bet you could come up with them. The first word is moving. Yes, I said it like 100 times and never said that was the code word. The next code word is sale. You can either spell it S-E-L-L or S-A-L-E, depending on what your fancy is, because nothing happens until you sell something. And the third word is sustainability. And that's because it's so important for our business, as well as when you're searching out a partner, you want their visions and values to match yours. And so I am happy that Maxsold matches my visions and values.
So code words: moving, sale, sustainability, and we can issue certificates of attendance if you email me at heather.dawson@maxsold.com. I will put that in the chat. And I do think we probably have the registrants list. We can send it out that way as well.
Yeah. So yeah, so code words that I forgot to mention that I wrote down on my sheet to not forget to mention are moving, sale, and sustainability.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. And that is it. That's a wrap.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Everybody.
Have a great Wednesday.
Thank you.